helter-skelter in the heartland.
This was a monster.
It's almost as if the Manson family broke into the house on the lake, leaving a chilling calling card on the walls in blood red spray paint.
Crime scene inside was horrific.
And upstairs, a gruesome scene. The bodies of a mother and her two young boys strangled while they were asleep.
Could this be some sick, twisted person that came in and snuffed out this family?
The distraught husband and father who warned cops about death threats to his family. And everyone in town is on edge, wondering.
Could this be a serial killer?
Violent crime is something that happens across the river in St. Louis, not in the quiet suburb of Columbia, Illinois. That's one reason Christopher Coleman decided to raise his family here.
Tell me about Christopher growing up. What was he like?
Mom's joy, I don't know how else to say it. He was just a good boy, involved at church activities, always doing whatever was going on at church.
Church has always been at the core of Chris's family. His parents, Connie and Ron, are co-pastors of the Grace Church in Chester, Illinois.
Christopher, just a good kid, good student, good athlete. Went in the Marine Corps right after he graduated.
In the Marines, Chris was a dog handler, and it was at a canine training seminar where he met the love of his life. Sherry Weiss was an MP in the U.S. Air Force.
When he came back with Sherry, what did you think?
Surprise, surprise. I was surprised. I wasn't impressed one way or the other. She was just a little blonde-headed girl to me.
But they say the real surprise came after Chris and Sherry drove up to Chicago for the weekend.
He called and he said, "Hey, Dad, just want to let you know I'm still in Chicago." "Okay, everything okay?" "Yeah, I got married."
She was a good gal.
So when did the children come along?
Right away. That was the reason they got married.
Oh, there was already a child on the way.
Yes.
That would be Garrett. His little brother Gavin was not far behind.
Tell me about your grandsons.
Garrett and Gavin, what a joy. They were just two little boys that were just full of each other. Garrett was very quiet and more subdued. Gavin, he was just busy all the time.
And so was Chris. He had an important job that paid over $100,000 a year. Bodyguard for world-famous Christian televangelist Joyce Meyer.
It's perfectly okay for you to go ahead and have a good time while God's working on your problem.
Joyce is an old friend of the Colemans and had known Chris since he was a little boy.
Chris traveled with Joyce all over the world.
That's a big job.
Big job, big job. And he was in charge of everything.
That's Chris in the red shirt helping guard Joyce at a book signing in a crowded warehouse store.
That job for your son was pretty spectacular.
Very much so.
Joyce is well respected around the world, but there are some who may not like televangelists and turn their criticisms into condemnation.
Chris would mention Joyce was always getting threats, and he would have to deal with them.
There are so many followers, and sometimes you have followers that turn.
But Coleman claimed he too was the target of hate, telling relatives and law enforcement that he got chilling emails like this one. "Tell Joyce to stop preaching the expletive or Chris's family will die. I will kill them all as they sleep."
It's kind of an odd person to target if you really want to get at her.
It seemed unusual that the bodyguard would be getting the threat because the bodyguard is not the person with the name.
And when one of those threats was allegedly stuffed into his mailbox outside the Coleman house, everyone began to worry.
We really got concerned when Sherry called us at the time. She was so scared that there'd been something. It wasn't mailed to them. It was put in their mailbox.
Connie says Sherry was extra frightened because that letter was delivered while Chris was traveling with Joyce in Hawaii. When he returned, he filed a police report.
He had notified the police department, and actually he had set up a camera in Mr. Barlow's house.
Justin Barlow lived across the street, and what better neighbor to do the job? He's a detective sergeant for the Columbia Police. He positioned the camera to focus on the Coleman's mailbox.
That frightened her because somebody had been that close to their home because their mailbox was at their driveway. And that was the first time we were really concerned for their safety.
So she called you guys crying and
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah, she was scared. Yeah, she was.
Columbia cops also put on extra patrols, but they never saw anyone lurking around. The camera did capture these images of Chris playing catch with Garrett and Gavin. 12 hours after this adorable family outing, the boys and their mother would be dead.
So when you heard the terrible news about what had happened to your daughter-in-law and your grandsons, did you immediately think, oh my God, this is the person who had been threatening to kill them?
I don't think I thought. I mean, there's not words to say when someone tells you that 3 people have been murdered. There's no, to this day, there's no words. There's no words.
It was early morning, 6:43 to be exact, when a call came in to Detective Barlow. Chris was at the gym and said he couldn't reach Sherry by phone when Barlow entered the house on a welfare check. What he saw was a harrowing scene.
What was the crime scene like on the inside?
All 3 were strangled in their beds. They remained in their beds. Sherry Coleman had 3 ligature marks that indicated that she fought and fought hard, and also had a black eye. There was spray-painted walls that I looked at through a window that said, punished. There were other messages to the effect that you knew this was coming.
The fact that the killer had spray painted so much of the house and spray painted over the victims and their beds made it seem like something straight out of the Manson family.
This was a monster. Somebody who would spray paint the walls, spray paint one of the boys, strangle the kids while they slept. It was a monster.
The small police department calls in reinforcements from the state police and the FBI. The brutal and macabre nature of the crime had cops wondering, are they looking for a possible serial killer? Coming up, panic turns Columbia into Cape Fear.
How this could happen in this small town.
Cops mount a massive search for the sicko strangler. They soon find some evidence that's X-rated.
Some kind of sex video.
Will a naked cocktail waitress help solve the mystery of the murders at the house on the lake?
This person threatening Chris Coleman must be the killer. This person making the threat said exactly what he was going to do, and it happened.